Is private debt an alternative investment? Yes. But let's go deeper than that. Is private debt an alternative investment? Well, yes, of course it is. But the real question is it a good investment for you? Is it something that actually is a good alternative for you to be able to use? Or is there something else? I want to dive into that right now. All right, so we're talking about private debt. Is this an alternative investment? Yes, it is. I've already declared that. But the real question is what kind of private debt? What is it like? Is it a really good option for being an alternative investment? Should you be doing something else? Now, private debt, depends. If you're looking at private debt as being loaning your friends and family members money, not only is it an alternative investment, but it's probably a dumb investment, right? I do not consider loaning my money to friends and family a private investment or something that's an alternative investment, because the truth is I'm probably going to lose my money in many cases. Now, there are always exceptions to the rule, right? I've got 8 kids. There are some kids I would trust with money, other kids I wouldn't trust them with $1, even to go buy themselves a candy bar because they'd probably screw it up, So there's different varying levels of maturity, of type of things that way. When I'm thinking about private investments, right, like private debt and things like that, I'm really thinking about loaning my money to people that are wise stewards of their money. So when I look at an investment, I don't just look at the investment, I look at the person I'm investing in, just like a bank would. Have you ever thought about a bank? What does a bank do? A bank doesn't just look at the house you're buying if you're trying to get a mortgage, do they? Yeah, sure, they'll look at it. They'll make sure at least the appraisal matches, the value of the house matches what they think it is. But most importantly, they're looking at you, aren't they? That's why you have to go through all those stupid hoops of trying to give them all your information and almost like you're in the doctor's office having to pull your pants down. It's like, oh, I hope it comes out looking okay. You're doing that financially. Please don't do that literally with your banker or mortgage broker, please. But no, you're doing that kind of financially, right? Because you're trying to show them everything. You show them this credit history and this report, all the good, the bad, and the ugly that you got there. You're showing them your cash reserves, like how much money is in your bank. They want to know if you've got money in case you can't make payments. Maybe you get laid off. They want to see how much cash reserves you have to keep making payments for a while. So maybe you can weather that storm. They're really looking at your overall financial health. They're ultimately investing in you. That's what banks do. They invest in the person, not so much the thing. Yes, the thing has to be there, but the person is the real thing. When you're looking to lend your money, you should be doing the same thing. Is this person safe? Is this person stable? Do they have a history, a track record of paying their people back? And even regardless of that, do they also have the ability? Do they have financial health in their company? Do they have enough reserves to keep paying out in case something goes wrong, something gets delayed? I've seen too many times where companies that were doing big volumes of real estate investing, for example, they're doing a great job there, but all of a sudden they're just banking on one little strategy, and that strategy trips them up. Then all of a sudden the whole thing goes out the window. I had a really good friend that happened to him. He had properties, literally 1,500 to 2,000 properties all over the country, and he had a fund that people were invested in. But unfortunately, the actual system he was using wasn't great. He wasn't cash flowing those properties. He wasn't worried about it. He was just buying and selling and doing stuff, raising capital from people, and then when it came down to it, he had to liquidate. And fortunately for some of those clients, he was able to reassign properties to those people in their names, but some of them didn't get the full amount of money back. Some of them were a little bit short. And so you gotta be careful of that. You gotta be looking to the financial health of that person or that company you're investing with, not just what they're investing in. So remember this, is that you wanna make sure you're looking at a good investment, right? Now, when you're looking at the investment, what are you investing in? When I like to do private debt, and I do investing that way, I like to have it backed up by a real asset. So I'm not so big on what's called unsecured debt. Unsecured debt's like when you're loaning somebody money to maybe they put into their business. You're not really buying anything, you're just hoping that the business grows, right? You're giving people money to help them invest in something else, right? Like I had somebody that reached out to me and she came to my office and she said, hey Chris, I got an investment deal for you. I'm gonna borrow $10,000 and I'll pay you 18% a year or 1.5% a month. Now I did the math on that. 10,000 bucks make 150 bucks a month or 18 grand a year or 1,800 bucks a year is pretty good, right? And then I started asking her, I said, well, okay, let me ask you this. What are you investing it in? She said, well, I'm gonna invest part of that money into actually going to a beauty pageant, right? And doing that. And I know there's some business contacts there and some things I can get that way. And then I'm also investing the other 6 grand into a business organization. I won't say its name because it's kind of popular nationwide, but into a business organization to become a member of that organization that has a lot of networking. And I want to have those business networking contacts. I'm like, okay, cool. What's your business? Well, I don't really have one but I know that I want to be able to get into business more. Okay, so you're using this to really get into business. Okay, well, let me do this. Are you willing to hire me to be your financial guy and then show me everything that's in your finances? Because I want to make sure that my investment comes back. She said, no, I'm not willing to do that. Okay, by the way, when were you planning on paying me back the 10,000 bucks? Well, what do you mean by that? Well, I figured you weren't going to try to pay me 150 bucks a month back forever, were you? Oh, no, we can put that in the agreement. Sorry, you guys, you can see some little red flags here, right? Because one, she was like, oh, I have to pay you back that money? Yes, I don't just want the interest. I eventually want the principal back at some point, even though the interest is nice. I probably want that money back. Then two, when I said, well, can I look at your finances more? She said, no. Flash forward 1 year, guess what? Her and her husband had filed for bankruptcy. I would not have got paid back anything. All it took me was to be able to ask about her as the investor, not just the investment. Sure, I love investing in business. I think if you're a business owner, investing in your business should be your number one investment. However, that being said, I want to make sure that investment comes back because there's a lot of decisions you made. Heck, there's decisions I've made in my business that didn't return back to me the money I put into it. And I want to make sure I get that ROI, right? And so just understand that if you're doing things for private money loans and things like that, that it's going into something good. It doesn't mean you don't give it to money for people in business. But again, if I'm going to lend out my money, I like to know I have some sort of security. So recently, with somebody that were looking at an investment, and he was saying, I need to borrow $1 million, ideally from one client, but it could be split up between two clients, but I need $1 million, and I'll pay handsomely for it. And he only needed it for 12 months. And I said, okay, that's good. But the next question was, all right, well, what's backing it up? I know that he had other assets, but when one of my clients reached out, she said, well, what should I do? I said, well, if he's willing to give you collateral for this loan, like if he's willing to put your name on some properties where you're the first one on the loan, or you're the first one on that loan, just like a first mortgage. So if anything goes wrong, you're the person that gets claim of that property. I say, that would be good. She's like, actually, he's willing to put me on 3 different properties and they're worth more than the money I'm lending him. I said, that's great. Ideally, you don't want to have to take those properties from him. You don't have to foreclose on him, so to speak. But that's a pretty good deal. And I'm like, it's not foolproof. There's still risk involved, but that's much better than him just saying he wants money and then he'll try to pay you back somehow. So that's, again, I like to have collateral. I like to have something that's physical, tangible, that I can claim on in case things don't go well. That's what I like to look for lending as an alternative investment. So is private debt an alternative investment? Of course it is. And it's a great one if you do it right. If you'd like to see other alternatives, things that could be better than lending or could be giving you just as good returns, go to our website, moneyripples.com. We have a lot of other education there, as well as be sure to subscribe to this channel because we got more videos on what those deals actually are.